Did you know that Max Verstappen arrives at his home Grand Prix with his worst run of results in 6 years? The surprising thing is that, despite everything, he remains the favorite of millions of Orange fans. But can he really shine at Zandvoort with a car that is no longer the best on the grid? Leave me your opinion in the comments. Can Verstappen win at home, or will we see a surprise from Ferrari or McLaren? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Max Verstappen arrives at the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix in a very different setting than the one he's accustomed to in previous years. After several seasons of firm dominance, he now faces one of the most challenging moments of his recent career. Red Bull, long the benchmark team in Formula One, has lost some of that seemingly untouchable advantage. The RB21, his current car, has failed to maintain the expected level of performance and has shown inconsistencies throughout the season. This means that Verstappen no longer starts each weekend as the big favorite, but rather as a contender who must battle against much more adverse circumstances. The numbers clearly reflect this. So far this year, Max has only achieved 2 victories, a low figure for a driver who has accustomed us to winning on practically every circuit. This situation places him in 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship, 69 points behind the leader. A significant gap that shows how difficult 2025 has been for him and Red Bull. Furthermore, his recent run has been particularly striking. He hasn't managed to make it onto the podium in the last 4 races. This is an unusual occurrence, as he hasn't experienced a similar drought for 6 years, which highlights the magnitude of the current problems. Helmut Marko and Laurent Mekies have publicly insisted that the real objective is not to win immediately, but to accumulate information ahead of the new regulations that will come into effect in 2026. This message has been interpreted in different ways. Some see it as a way of managing expectations in a difficult year, while others believe that a more ambitious strategy lies behind these statements. For fans, this fuels the debate about whether Red Bull has truly resigned itself to not fighting for the title in 2025, or is holding on to its cards it hasn't yet shown. The possibility that new suspension geometries are being tested in simulators has piqued the curiosity of fans, who wonder if these tweaks could be the key to restoring some of the RB21's lost competitiveness. In this context, Verstappen's statements have also added nuances to the topic. He himself has acknowledged feeling resigned about the team's situation, but at the same time eager to see real improvements. This combination of brutal honesty and restrained hope generates even more speculation, because it makes it clear that Max isn't content with a secondary role on the grid. His competitive nature pushes him to demand more, and this fuels the perception that he could be putting internal pressure on Red Bull to accelerate the car's evolution. Thus, the rumors revolve not only around parts or technical development, but also around the power dynamics and decisions within the team. Right now, regardless of whether Red Bull is actually testing secret innovations, the important thing is that the rumors keep the expectation alive about what Verstappen and his team could achieve at Zandvoort. And that expectation, when managed well, can become a tool to motivate both the driver and the fans who hope to see him shine at home. Red Bull heads into the Dutch Grand Prix with a very clear strategy: prioritize the future over the present. Team management, led by Laurent Mekies, has confirmed that updates to the RB21 will be minimal for the remainder of the season. This means we won't see major changes to the car, as the majority of resources are being allocated to the 2026 project. For the fans, this may sound disappointing, as everyone expects their idol to have a winning car, but in the context of Formula One, it's a pragmatic decision. Sacrificing immediate performance to prepare for a competitive leap in the next cycle is a risky gamble, but one that could define Red Bull's future in the category. This approach inevitably creates a contrast with Verstappen's ambitions. On the one hand, the Dutchman understands that the team is going through a period of transition and has publicly endorsed the long-term project. The situation also reveals the natural tension that exists between the urgency of the present and the vision of the future. While engineers and management insist on looking ahead to 2026, Verstappen knows his fans expect to see him fight for victories now, especially at Zandvoort. This difference in priorities could shape the narrative of the weekend, as each result will be analyzed not only from a sporting perspective, but also from the perspective of how it fits into Red Bull's larger strategy. The relationship between driver and team is going through a delicate moment, but also an opportunity, to demonstrate that they can withstand adversity together. The potential consequences of this weekend at Zandvoort are very interesting because the scenario can change in different directions. The first factor working in Max Verstappen's favor is the circuit itself. It's his home, a track he knows perfectly, and where he has won every edition since returning to the calendar in 2021. The combination of fast corners, technical sections, and the famous bank sections suit his aggressive driving style. Furthermore, the emotional benefit of having an entire orange sea in the stands is a boost that often translates into extra confidence, especially in qualifying, where a small detail can mean the difference between starting ahead or getting stuck in traffic. The second point to consider is the condition of the car. Although Red Bull has made it clear that the improvements will be minimal, minor tweaks to the downforce and suspension will be made to try to balance the RB21 in the slower corners. If these modifications manage to reduce the understeer that has cost him so much on other tracks, Verstappen could regain some of his lost competitiveness. A lack of real development could leave Red Bull vulnerable to rivals who are not only focused on the future, but also on winning. Tire management also needs to be taken into account. Zandvoort is a demanding circuit in this regard due to its changes in pace and the lateral forces generated by its fast corners. If the RB21 fails to maintain good balance, Verstappen could once again suffer the same problems as in Hungary, where the car proved unstable and degraded more than expected. This would be one of the hardest consequences for him, as it would force him to take risks with an aggressive strategy or rely on mistakes from his rivals to fight for a podium spot. However, the most important consequence is not measured only in points or immediate results, but in perception. If Verstappen manages to shine at home despite all the limitations, it will send a clear message that he remains the driver capable of overcoming any obstacle. Such performances strengthen his image, not only among the fans but also within the team, reinforcing confidence in his leadership. Conversely, if the RB21's weaknesses become evident again and he fails to even come close to the top positions, the narrative will be that Red Bull is having one of its dullest seasons in years, and that could weigh psychologically on him in the final stretch of the championship. With all this, the weekend at Zandvoort could become an opportunity for Verstappen to transform the pressure into positive energy and demonstrate that he remains competitive even without the best car. The question is whether that talent and the support of the fans will be enough to compensate for the RB21's technical limitations against much more consistent rivals. That's the tension that makes this Grand Prix an unmissable event. What's expected this weekend at Zandvoort is marked by an atmosphere of uncertainty. No one doubts Verstappen's talent or the energy he receives from racing on his home track, but the big question is whether the car can live up to his ambitions. Red Bull has promised minor adjustments to the aerodynamics to try to make the RB21 more balanced in medium-speed corners, an aspect that could be decisive at this track. If these modifications work, Verstappen could close in on the leading group and regain the confidence he needs to return to the podium. However, expectations within the team are not so optimistic. Laurent Mekies has made it clear that the main focus remains on development for 2026, implying that no risks will be sought with drastic solutions in the present. This means that Verstappen's performance will depend largely on his ability to adapt to the car's limitations and exploit every detail to his advantage. Red Bull isn't expected to compete head-to-head with McLaren in pure pace, so strategy and on-track execution will play a key role. In this context, qualifying becomes a critical moment. Zandvoort is a circuit where overtaking is difficult, making starting position almost as important as race pace. If Verstappen manages to put in a perfect lap in Q3, with the encouragement of the fans and his pinpoint knowledge of the track, he could put himself in a prime position to fight for the podium. On the other hand, if the RB21's lack of speed leaves him relegated on the grid, the race could become a defensive battle, trying to salvage points with no real chance of winning. Another factor that can influence this is the weather. Zandvoort is known for its changeable conditions, and unexpected rain could completely alter the grid order. In this scenario, Verstappen usually excels, as his aggressive style and adaptability allow him to take advantage in unpredictable circumstances. A rainy race or one with track changes could become his best opportunity to make up for the performance deficit compared to his rivals. With all this, the weekend at Zandvoort is shaping up to be a test of resilience. Verstappen isn't arriving as the clear favorite, but he has the emotional, technical, and strategic resources to turn his home Grand Prix into a show of character. The real challenge will be to see if these small improvements to the car and his natural talent are enough to put him back on the podium, or if he'll have to continue waiting for signs of progress while McLaren sets the pace. In conclusion, Max Verstappen faces his home Grand Prix at Zandvoort with a very different outlook than in previous years. He no longer arrives as the overwhelming favorite with a dominant car, but as a driver who must battle the technical limitations of the RB21 and the pressure of staying competitive in a season that has him further from the top. Despite this, his talent, determination, and the strength of the Dutch fans make him a contender no one can rule out. This is the contrast that makes the weekend so exciting, the unknown of whether the champion can outperform his rivals with what he has at his disposal. An analysis of what we've seen so far shows that Red Bull is experiencing a moment of transition in which it has decided to look to the future, while Verstappen must compete in the present with a car that doesn't always respond. This tension between the immediate and the strategic will shape not only his performance at Zandvoort, but also the driver's relationship with his team for the rest of the season. If he manages to pull off a great result on home soil, he'll reinforce his role as the undisputed leader. But if his limitations become evident again, the narrative will be one of a team already thinking about tomorrow and leaving the present in the hands of its driver's pure skill. Don't miss it, because what happens at Zandvoort could define the course of the championship. Let me know your opinion in the comments. Do you think Verstappen will make it back to the podium on home soil, or will victory go to someone else this time? Your point of view could spark a fascinating debate about what's at stake this season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.